Let's get after it, huh? Daily trading recap here for this Friday, the 11th of March, 2022. Grinding away again at these spread opportunity trades through the futures on this Friday, and continuing to fine-tune my automated strategies and understanding how that Ninja script works with that Ninja Trader system. Trying to dive into the incredible world of code. That is a mind blower for sure, but grinding away one day at a time. Let's get into the specifics on the day, just as for reference for me. Again, market internals on the day. NASDAQ, $162 billion volume. I think that's incorrect. I'm going to see what NICE is at. 272. Let's check again. Okay, there we go. I think that's updated. We are 51 minutes after the close here. NASDAQ, $220 billion volume on the day. NICE, $330 billion volume. OTC is $2.4 billion volume trading on the day. I believe this little spike in SPY was from Putin coming out with a news conference or something saying things are going good over in Ukraine. Believe that when I see it, but again, coming into whatever day that was, not this most recent CPI news, but another news catalyst similar to that one in the overall market that prompted a very sharp move and reaction in pre-market and leading to whatever day that was, that it was actually a quick reversal. I think it was that V day that it just either sold off and tanked on that news, and then as soon as that market open came, immediately V reclaimed back to where it was trading at, and then eventually ended up rolling over and going back down further that way, but becoming a trend day for that morning session at least. On top of that, days like this, I was hesitant even to begin with on this Friday because Fridays are the most volatile, non-trend day probable days of any of the days of the week. But since we have already come from each of these previous days, it's 3 days of the week, not so much Monday, but on Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, each of these days offering some nice volatility points-wise compared to where we opened and trading, even within that first 15 to 30 minutes. I normally don't like to trade that type of time frame anymore, but even within there was very nice opportunity these past 3 days, which kind of, I don't want it to be the gambler's fallacy. I think that's the right example of, gosh, it's just been continuing to hit. That makes it more likely to not hit the next time. But I do believe there is a little bit of sentiment in that for when we are just beginning when we are in these non-trend days, so often, eventually, one of the days has to be a trend day and push price to somewhere strictly and not just offer any wavering back and forth action beyond compared to that open price intraday there. So today was definitely that kind of day. Offered a 6 points total high within the second minute candle from that open. I did have a little mess up with my automated strategy looking for that half point onto ES contracts from that 930, that's singularly getting long at that 930.00 mark and playing for only half points. And in the past week that I've done that, it immediately pretty much fills me as soon as I push that button or as soon as the strategy goes out now. But today was the first day that I tried to automate that strategy, and it went a minute early. So then now as this candle showed, having to sit through that, and it was kind of taken against me, and I'm going, oh, shoot, now I can't really set up what I wanted to do with my MES spread trade very well. So threw me off just a little bit on there, but kind of dealt with what I had and reacted to it well enough. Got my actual fill on those MES, finally got filled on those half points from where I was entered on that initial half point strategy that's based on the backtested data that I have. And then going into the Friday volatility spread trade using the MES and only going, since I was in that little mix up with the half point with that strategy going 1 minute early, I sized down. I was originally going to try to go for 3 MES contracts each side, looking for 10 points both ways. I sized myself down to 1 contract both ways and still keeping that 10-point profit target on both sides from that open and eventually turned into wherever I got filled, because I think I did get closer to that second minute candle getting my first entry versus getting filled right away or even just a few seconds before market open there. So today would have been one of those days. I had a big talk yesterday in that daily trading recap about where I could see the potential future for this market hour spread trade going, and even debating the facts of, okay, do I want it to be market hours of spread trade opportunity, or even opening up to the ES, the futures full day of spread trading, going from 1800 on that previous day to the 1700 that we trade here that will close at tonight, or that it closes at each day. So different opportunities or variables that way. But then looking at on days like this of, gosh, okay, this would have been a winner day if I was going for 5 points, which I did go for last week, and that was a nice little opportunity there. I would have been filled within that first 2 minutes onto the upside there, and then that was 9:40, within 10 minutes, 11 minutes there, would have been filled to the downside profit target order there. Been walking away with 10 points, easy, no questions asked. But versus now the strategy on days when it becomes a harder trend day, that there's just literally no points offered, like maybe even 1 point at max, one way or the other, and then it just continues to go and rip like it did on this day, just offer nothing else beyond that open price, whichever way it decides to go, like today of just offering, like if it only opened, just perked a little 1 point above where it opened and then just continued to rip and fall off and close close to the extreme, the low of the day here on the day. On these types of days, it just becomes so useless. I don't want to go through that whole thing that I mentioned yesterday, but just kind of paraphrasing it, it's just almost stupid for me if I'm less convicted in this trade on a specific day to be sizing myself down, similar to how I would be with small cap types of trades, because that's the mentality that I have of, it's not an A plus or B setup, so I'll just like size down accordingly, and that's going to reduce my risk. That's not really the case. That's not the same principle with this type of trade. It's almost has to be like, well, if I'm less convicted, I should almost be pushing for more profit target. So now instead of today, when I'm taking a 50, see here, that's got to be a 50, closer to 80 point actual loss on the day. Now that's, instead of me taking what would have been a 90, 100 point loss for how far we actually traveled down from that open, now I can actually chew into that loss based on the parameters that I'm setting for the profit target on the side that it's trending to, if that makes sense. So initially I was, trying to be, okay, I'm less convicted. I'm going to go for 1 point above and 1 point below. Oh, shoot, it didn't even get to 1 point. So now I'm stuck with it, and whatever parameters I set for the stop to get me out of it. And usually, of course, like today, I allowed it to go full market hours day. I've just like succumbed to the will of the market, to wherever the wind blowed. Of the risk was almost infinite on these style of trades, and it still technically is, but being able to now size down that risk proportion by increasing the profit target that I'm seeking on the downside to protect myself on days like this, I think this even allows me even more to say, okay, these are the types of days where I need to be pushing profit targets more, that having my less conviction from that initial little hard reaction push that's just kind of iffy. We're coming from this week of lots of non-trending days. I think there's a high probability chance. There's just something inside me, the little intuition that says today could be a potential non-opportunity for scaling with just we're trending sideways type of day, but volatility is offered all throughout. And it's not about predicting the correct action or time. It's just about playing that specific movement, just going sideways, but volatility throughout intraday. Where's my train of thought going with that? These are the types of days that it is almost better to be pushing for a greater profit target to the other side, and then playing that on the backtested data of knowing that it's not as probable to get filled for a price to be reaching those targets on those days, but it's better to be net neutral, that price doesn't ever reach either of my targets, and to be finished the day like closing out both of my trades saying, okay, well, I didn't get filled on either of them. I'm still net neutral. I'm paying $3 in commissions, $4 in commissions for that trade. Okay, that's far better than, taking today's loss of however many points I took on, even though it was one MES contract, which I do definitely favor more. It was stupid for me to be taking multiple ES contracts for this philosophy, but I think there's definitely building blocks to go off of from this strategy, and just learning that this is not the death of this strategy whatsoever. These are factored into the backtested data, and this is just one of those outlier days, and will add to the understanding of maybe I do need to push this more. Maybe I need to dial it back a little bit. Maybe I need to consider other factors, and maybe Friday just doesn't become an automatic 100%. We need to be in on Fridays. That, okay, yeah, Fridays are more likely, but we can always still pull the parachute cord and, call it off. It doesn't have to happen every single Friday, because it doesn't. Nothing is ever 100%. So lots of data to still crunch, lots of backtesting again to go over with that, and continual refinement within myself of what I'm actually trying to pursue with this strategy going forward. So that was my my MES trade on the day, factoring in I did take the little little half point as well to start it off and kind of get us off on a little hiccup step there, but then also wanting to did not get to be a part of what I wanted to on the looking for the 5 points from the open of that 1800 open of the day's action either. That's another back tested opportunity that I think has some rich tastefulness in it as well. That could have been factored in today in the same regard, but was not a part of it because I'm still figuring out the NinjaTrader script system there. That was Spile I want to talk about there. We did dollar volume on the day. Also want to mention I did not see a lot of red name activity in the chat room, so we take that for whatever it's worth, whatever inferences we want to conclude from that especially in the afternoon, just nobody was showing up or posting anything significant. And yeah, let's get into DRCT, which was my only trader on the day. I actually got started in on this one in the after hours of yesterday. Very, very low volume, only 14,000 trades that I'm showing on the day that we had. Yeah, and just very slow price action. I had to trade this thing on the 5-minute candle chart just to keep my sense of how this thing was going about itself in line. But started in with 20 shares. I'll actually just pull up the trades themselves if they'll show. Yeah, perfect. Instead of being right now at the little, I only got a max position size of 50 shares throughout the entire duration of this trade. But starting with 20 shares overnight, 238, I got the fill. Sure enough, protecting myself should it start to trend closer within this 2.4 to 2.5 range, opening in pre-market today. And if it was wanting to do any craziness within pre-market or just right away out of the gate, I wanted to allow myself to have a position beforehand and just be well suited enough, even if it was a very small position size, to just have the clean perspective and open myself up to not be wanting to chase it right out of the gate, but be sitting pretty and also from a position of power. But sure enough, it does sell off. In the pre-market today, still holding levels. Obviously, this $2 psychological level became key yesterday, where we perfectly bounced off of there, and offering another little support point on that first screen day, where I did try to trade it as well there on that Wednesday. But using that was a little bit bigger of a risk margin, but again, that's why a risk buffer, but that's why I was taking a very small position size, especially after hours to begin with on that initial long. Sizing in with another 10 shares, as I saw it was kind of clinging to VWAP still, even with lackluster volume. This is a crazy small floater. It's a Friday, not a lot of other crazy awesome opportunity that would potentially take away more eyeballs from this one to get this thing squeezing to a nice price point. So just keeping all those factors in mind, but overall still respecting the price. If price isn't working, then price is king. What I did want to talk about, I'll take away these trades for now that we did see here. Talking about my entries and looking for confirmation. And in the back of my mind, this isn't the full position size that I want to be taking on these trades. I definitely want to be taking in the hundreds of dollars and hundreds of shares of position size. But in my mind, I'm waiting for that confirmation. And I forget the trader on YouTube, that British guy, the futures guy. I don't think he trades futures. I think it's something else. It might be Forex. But what he talks about of people usually are adding or kind of taking profits away very quickly on our winners, whereas he's trying to just leverage harder once his trade is confirmed. He's trying to push his trade more. When it starts going in his favor, he's thinking, how can I add to this position or push it harder? Versus, the normal philosophy and where I definitely came from of, if it's starting to work, that's when you start taking profits away, like when I start scaling out. And that's kind of the Tim Guttani method a little bit of, hey, as it's working, pay yourself along the way. Don't be playing with fire. And selling into these tops here are definitely awesome executions and great. I don't knock myself for these sales here that I did have at these points, but when these trades start to come about again, and I am actually going to be taking big position size on it, these identification points of where I didn't really factor in whether I was looking at something else or still messing around with the futures trade or whatever it be, that price is still holding, even though it's choppy, even though it's inconsistent and just kind of weird. It wasn't like a crazy wide spread. It's just like, we're not really trading that much right now. Tries to reject VWAP, but doesn't. VWAP is actually rising still in this first 15 minutes of market open, and price is holding. That's an area to be getting in starting long. That's definitely a Bryce Toohey style trade. I'll be interested to see if he has a small cap recap today. I think he has a talk show today, actually. So I don't know if he would have been in this one, but I could see him definitely being that an entry point. I can just hear him in my head, him identifying that as a potential entry point, starting in long there, selling in at least some at this $2.5 $half level area as we get to this volume push there. which I became my philosophy. So I took off that, 10 shares that I started in with this morning to still keep that 20 shares block, kind of factoring that in as one trade to there. But then obviously another level comes in that I identify here just above 235 that begins to hold as support. I say, okay, let's get in size in with another 30 shares, get me to 50 share position. Was my kind of hint at, okay, that's definitely a level. This area and region here is definitely a level in points that offers a very nice risk reward. If it starts to break below 235, I'm definitely going to be out and cut it extremely quickly. My risk is 1 cent. Let's size in more, start to lay it down harder. And that's where the price and opportunity came to get us to that lunch session peaking perfectly at that 295 point there. But yeah, that is the area, and that is the point where I was convincing myself, and I did go through the motions of, hey, now I'm sizing in more, but still there's more that is needed to be done of, hey, we need to size in more. We need to actually size it, not just kind of pretend that we're sizing in. With 30 more shares, that's awesome. But then obviously with these exits, selling into strength that is there, and I don't I'm opening myself up to so many different trading philosophies, especially stepping into this futures realm and all the other realms that I do want to get into as well, and just continue to expand myself and my horizons, perspectives on how to trade. But for this specific trade, I don't knock myself. It's stinging because of how just small of a position size it is that, gosh, yeah, I want to be pushing the lever harder, and saying that it's always just going to be educational and experimental and a learning experience is great. But for the situation that's there, yeah, I can't knock myself so incredibly hard for these specific sells. Taking off some into 255 from my entry of I think my average was 235, perfectly at that point, maybe a little bit higher. Right around this point. Selling into that perk, selling into this strength, huge volume candle, 1046. That candle looks like there. Sells off, bounces off of VWAP. Not insane volume again, just how keeping it always this entire intraday on the 5-minute chart. Continuing to look at do other things with my time and not just focus so hard on the tick-by-tick action, but just letting it play out, do what it wants to do, slowly raising my stop, going from that 235 area, slowly raising it to 245 as we're testing to these nice levels, bounces off of here again. I'm slowly just starting to raise that more and more as it's continuing to push to new high of days off of there. Levels are continuing to hold. We're getting to new pushes here. And gosh, I had a profit target in somewhere around here. I was putting that little range bound OCO trade in at, looking for that $2.99, $3 level exit for the last 20 shares remaining that I did have on the trade. And then 2.5 that I set as a stop, thinking with that in mind of, okay, that's plenty of room for it to fake out, to break this key level here, which I could see a lot of longs basing their exit off of. VWAP, if some people are basing their longs off of that. Even just above this 251 level there, if it's going to just kind of tap at 251 and rise from there. But sure enough, it as I set that order, set it and forget it, was walking away from the computer screen. That's where it perfectly dropped off to and bottom before it reclaimed above VWAP into the close here. That is just trading. That's how they freaking get you. They spotted my order sitting there. My 20 shares, they wanted them pretty badly in order to drop price that hard with that much volume compared to the rest of the intraday. It's just funny. It is what it is, though. And I want to say that I would still be in it if I was watching it and seeing, okay, well, it did break 2.5 here, but I'm not going continually harder past. And another one of those areas of, would I have gotten out actually if I was babysitting it or watching it, and would I still actually be in it if going into over the weekend with those little remaining shares, especially as it's doing absolutely nothing in after hours for trading activity. Just an interesting little ticker. None of the other 3-day movers that I had, ASCS I think is the other one, SBFM, the 3 days opportunities that had first green days on same day on that Wednesday coming into today, looking for that 3rd day pattern type of play today. I didn't grade myself in my journal, but great opportunity for the idea. Not an A+, not an awesome, not the most pristine, beautiful price action or level 2 tape printing that I want to see or be part of, but price opportunity was there, so I got to give it an A. And for execution-wise, and just looking at all the factors, I can give myself a B. I can say that I want to size up more in reflection going forward on these types of trades. I just want to be taking more shares, but I did push the lever when it was offered. in the correct spots. So I can't knock myself and give myself lower than a B for that either. And exit-wise, I certainly don't blame myself other than the last little remaining kind of semi-lottery ticket shares that I kept on looking for any rampage into the close to that $3 psychological level, as if it was going to provide any amount of magnetism for today, but it just did not. So A grade for idea, B grade for execution that I can give myself on that one today. And still, I got like the 2 or 3 shares, whatever paper short left of DWAC. Could be seeing a little bit of a bottom here. We're now putting in a higher low off the bottom I put in yesterday on Thursday. So like I've been kind of alluding to these past few times of talking about it, that this isn't a panicking sell-off based on the volume alone, but you can't ignore price. And being along for this little landslide ride was certainly awesome, but it just doesn't scream like there's going to be an obvious first screen day reversal that, okay, now is the time we get out of this short. We play for the dip bounce, and then we look to short it again as it produces a peak. We could see that. Maybe we could see a reclaim to $80 within the next few trading days, but otherwise, I don't think it sells off harder from this point. Maybe we just kind of cling to this $75 level around up and down that range for the next few trading weeks even. I was certainly very glad to be in this little educational short on that one. That is all I had. Nothing slapping me silly on the scanners as of right now, looking over the weekend. But of course, we got to do some more research anyway. More scanning, more research, more scanning, more research, more data collection. It's an ever continuous grind, but I love it. I'm thankful for it every single day. And I thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.